Right now, somewhere in your backyard, your driveway cracks your garden border, your lawn. There are plants growing that you have spent years trying to kill. You've pulled them, sprayed them, smothered them with mulch, and every single spring they come back. What if I told you those plants are more nutritious than anything currently growing in your raised beds? What if the thing you've been destroying is worth more than the thing you've been carefully tending? This video is about 6 common weeds plants you almost certainly already have, and why they outperform conventional vegetable gardens on calories, vitamins, medicine, and one thing no garden catalog will ever sell you: zero input survival. These are plants that cost nothing, need nothing, and return every year whether you want them to or not. By the end of this video, you will never look at your lawn the same way again. And you'll understand why the people who know about this stuff haven't been buying seeds at all. Let's start with the one that's probably growing closest to you right now. Number 6. Dandelion. The plant you've been poisoning is more nutritious than kale. Before the herbicide industry convinced an entire generation that a perfect lawn was the goal, dandelion was treated as a valuable crop. European settlers brought it to North America deliberately. They planted it on purpose. Let that sit for a second. A plant that now gets Roundup sprayed on it every spring was once carried across an ocean as a food source. Here's why. A 100-gram serving of dandelion greens. Roughly a handful contains 558% of your daily recommended vitamin K. It has more beta-carotene than a carrot, more calcium per calorie than a glass of milk, and every part of the plant is edible. The leaves in early spring before they turn bitter, the flowers raw or battered, and fried, the root roasted and ground as a coffee substitute or dried as a liver-supporting herbal remedy that sells for $12 a bag at health food stores. Here's the comparison that matters. Spinach. One of the most praised superfoods in any garden needs prepared soil, regular watering protection from heat and bolting and replanting every single season. Dandelion needs nothing. It pushes through compacted soil. It survives frost. It produces from April through October, and it comes back every year from a taproot that reaches 18 inches deep. Meanwhile, dandelion is already there, already rooted, already producing, and already adapted to the conditions of your yard without needing 1 minute of preparation, pampering, watering, or seasonal replacement from you. You cannot kill it without chemicals, which is exactly the point. Seed saving does not even apply here. Dandelion saves itself. Every white clock you blew on as a child is a seed dispersal system that makes sure you never run out. Number 2, purslane. The only land plant that gives you omega-3s like fish. Most people who notice purslane think it is some kind of succulent that wandered into the garden bed. They yank it out and toss it on the compost pile. What they just threw away is one of the most nutritious, fully edible plants on the planet. Purslane contains between 300 and 400 milligrams of alpha-linolenic acid per 100-gram serving. That is more omega-3 fatty acid than any other leafy green plant on Earth. Put that in context. Most people spend $20 to $30 a month on fish oil supplements to reach that number. Purslane gives it to you for free from your garden bed, and it will be back next week without you doing a thing. But what makes purslane genuinely valuable for food security is this. It is a C4 photosynthesis plant, which means it thrives in the exact conditions that kill conventional vegetables. Drought heat, poor soil, complete neglect. While your tomatoes are wilting in August and your lettuce has already bolted into bitterness, purslane is hitting peak growth. It wants the same conditions that stress the rest of your garden. Eat it raw in salads. It has a mild, slightly lemony taste. Sauté it in oil, stir it into soups, pickle it. In Turkey and Greece, it has been cultivated for centuries. In the Middle East, it is called baklé and treated like a delicacy. In your yard, it is getting thrown away. The calorie math matters too. Purslane is only about 16 calories per 100 grams, so it will not win on raw calories. But its micronutrient and omega-3 density fills gaps. Your potato, squash, and beans cannot. It is the supplement you have been growing and destroying for free all along. And unlike supplements, it keeps reproducing itself without any purchase. Number 3, chickweed. The spring superfood that shows up before your garden does. Chickweed Stellaria media is the small, sprawling plant with tiny white star-shaped flowers that forms dense mats in late winter and very early spring. In most temperate climates, it begins growing in February or March, weeks before the last frost date and weeks before any cultivated vegetable can be started safely outdoors. That timing is the advantage. In any food security situation, the most dangerous stretch is late winter into early spring, the gap between depleted stored food and the first harvest. Chickweed fills that gap. It grows when almost nothing else will. It produces dense edible material with zero inputs. And it tastes good. Mild, slightly grassy with a texture close to baby spinach. Nutritionally, it provides vitamin C, calcium, magnesium, and iron. It was historically used as a poultice for skin irritation and minor wounds, a use supported by its demonstrated anti-inflammatory properties. It is one of the oldest documented edible weeds in both European and American folk medicine. What makes chickweed useful in the system this video is building is that it grows in the same spaces as everything else on this list. Garden edges, lawn borders, disturbed soil. It does not compete with your crops because it is finished and dying back by the time your summer vegetables need that space. It occupies a calendar gap that no cultivated plant can reach. It self-seeds prolifically. One plant can produce 800 seeds, and those seeds can stay viable in the soil for up to 10 years. Once chickweed enters your garden, it becomes part of that garden, permanently providing fresh greens every late winter for as long as you grow food there. Number 4. Lamb's quarters. The forgotten grain crop that outperforms spinach on protein. You've seen lamb's quarters before. Pale green leaves a powdery white coating on the new growth, and a habit of shooting up waist-high in any patch of disturbed soil. It does not look like food. It looks like a weed in the most ordinary, forgettable sense of the word. In reality, it was one of the most important food plants in pre-agricultural North America. Native American tribes across the continent cultivated lamb's quarters, intentionally harvesting both the leaves and the seeds. The seeds are tiny and black, similar to quinoa, which makes perfect sense because lamb's quarters and quinoa belong to the same plant family. Those seeds can be dried, ground into flour, or cooked whole like a grain. One mature plant can produce tens of thousands of seeds in a single season. The leaves contain 4.2 grams of protein per 100 grams raw, more than spinach. They also provide iron, calcium, riboflavin, and vitamins A and C. Cook them exactly the way you would cook spinach. They wilt down the same way. They taste mild and earthy, and they are actually more tender than many cultivated greens. Here's the survival detail that makes lamb's quarters stand out. It grows in disturbed soil, the same kind of ground you find around construction sites, vacant lots, roadsides, and more importantly, the edges of any garden that has been dug and amended. If you have been building raised beds, lamb's quarters is probably already colonizing the border, and it self-seeds so aggressively that once it arrives, it stays. Most people growing spinach 20 feet away are buying seed, preparing soil, fighting slugs, and replanting every season. Lamb's quarters 3 feet from that bed is doing the same job for free. It is already adapted to your site, already producing greens and grain, and already proving that the line between weed and crop is mostly marketing language. Number 5. Clover. The nitrogen factory you've been mowing into nothing. Red clover and white clover are nitrogen-fixing legumes. That means their roots host bacteria that pull nitrogen directly from the atmosphere and deposit it into the soil. It is the same biological process that makes beans so valuable in crop rotation, except clover does it as a perennial, across a much wider root zone without any work from you. A dense patch of clover in your lawn is improving the soil underneath it every single season. Before synthetic fertilizers existed, farmers planted clover specifically to restore depleted fields. It was a deliberate and valuable crop. Then synthetic nitrogen made that less necessary, and we started treating it like a weed. Its edible profile is better than most people realize. Young clover leaves are edible, raw, mildly grassy, and best eaten in small amounts. The flowers, both red and white, can be eaten raw or dried. Red clover flowers have been used in herbal medicine for decades as a source of isoflavones, compounds studied for their effects on hormonal balance and cardiovascular health. Dried red clover flowers sell for $8 to $15 per ounce at herbal retailers. You can harvest them from your own lawn for free. The seeds, tiny and abundant, can also be sprouted indoors during winter for fresh greens when nothing is growing outside. Clover sprouts are mild, nutritious, and ready in 4 days. And the plant will keep spreading, keep fixing nitrogen, and keep flowering without any intervention from you. Unlike annual crops, it keeps doing that year after year, turning lawn space into fertility forage flowers and free winter sprouts. It feeds you, improves the soil, and keeps producing at the same time, which is exactly why older farming systems valued it so highly, long before lawns turned it into something to erase. Number 6. Wood sorrel. The vitamin C source that is already growing in your lawn. Wood sorrel looks like clover with heart-shaped leaves. Most people see it, assume it is clover, and ignore it. It is not clover, and it should not be ignored. Wood sorrel gets its sour citrusy flavor from oxalic acid, the same compound that gives rhubarb its tartness. That flavor is your signal that it is one of the better wild sources of vitamin C available. Vitamin C is one of the first deficiencies to appear in diets that shift towards stored grains and starches. It is the reason sailors died of scurvy on long voyages. Not starvation, but the absence of fresh plant material. Wood sorrel grows in partial shade, which makes it valuable in places where almost nothing else thrives. Under trees along north-facing fence lines and in the shadowed edges of garden beds, wood sorrel fills those dead zones. It is one of the first plants to push new growth in spring and one of the last to die back in fall. Eat it raw. Add it to salads for brightness and acidity. Use it anywhere you would use lemon. Children often eat it instinctively because of the sour taste, which tells you something about how naturally it presents itself as food. Its seeds and roots are also edible. And like every other plant on this list, it comes back on its own every year. It is small and tends to grow in patches, but that is part of its value. It slips into shaded corners and unused edges your larger crops never occupy, quietly producing flavor where the rest of the garden offers almost nothing. Now step back and look at what you actually have here. 6 plants. Not one of them costs money. Not one of them requires catalog seeds, prepared soil irrigation infrastructure, or any growing knowledge beyond being able to recognize them. Together, they deliver omega-3 vitamin C protein calcium, iron nitrogen fertility, early spring greens, summer abundance, and medicine. The average American household spends more than $500 a year on lawn care. A meaningful portion of that money goes toward killing exactly these plants. We are paying to destroy a free food system that has been trying to establish itself in our yards for decades. And the deeper irony is this. The food system we are protecting, our lawns, the grocery store supply chain, the seed catalogs, the fertilizer inputs, is the fragile one. It is the one that can fail. The weeds are the resilient system. They survived every ice age, every drought, every agricultural revolution, and they will survive whatever comes next. The question is not whether these plants can feed you, they already can. The question is whether you'll let them or not. If you've been building a garden this season, the next thing worth learning is which cultivated crops complement what these weeds are doing, and which ones fill the calorie and storage gaps without repeating what is already growing wild. In the video on backyard yield, you'll see the 8 crops that work best alongside a forage system and why many gardens miss the most important one.